Are you ready to get clitoris? We have to talk about what the clitoris is, not just where it is. Most people think of it as that little external nub you see on the outside that's under the frenulum, that little hood of skin, and it's above the urethra and the opening to a woman's vagina, right? Now, the thing to know about the clitoris is that there's more nerve endings per millimeter in the clitoris concentrated than your entire body. There are tons of nerve endings there. It is the key to a woman's sexual arousal and her orgasm. And the most important thing about the clitoris is that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. So I'm going to be teaching you about the anatomy of the clitoris because that's really important for arousal, and also some of the interesting similarities between men and women, or males and females, XY and XXs, in terms of genital development, because it all comes from the same tissue. And I'm also going to give you some tips at the end for how to best stimulate the clitoris, understanding the anatomy. Okay. So first of all, here you go. That is an anatomically correct model of a clitoris. And here's the thing. I'm going to try to hold this up so you can focus on it. This little tip part is what you see from the outside. Okay. And that's under the hood. But look, it goes all the way down. These are called the crura, little legs. This is all vascular tissue. Okay. And so it engorges when a woman gets aroused and more blood flow goes to that area. So does the whole clitoris, right? But this little tip, now, they didn't even know this, by the way, that this was in a woman's body and part of the clitoris until the mid-1990s, if you can believe it. And now we know. And this is what's so cool about it. So genitals develop from the same embryologic tissue, right? A male baby and a female baby developing in utero. It comes from the same tissue. And if it's an XY chromosome, it typically it'll grow into a boy, male genitals. And if it's a female XX chromosome, it'll grow into a vulva, vagina, clitoris, right? So here's the cool part. These two crura of the female clitoris are actually from the same tissue as the corpus cavernosum, those two rods of tissue that fill a man's penis. So when a man gets an erection, there are these two tubes of basically blood vessels and tissue inside the penis, like two rods, and they fill with blood. And then there's a trapping mechanism that traps the blood in there. And that's what maintains the erection. That's what makes it hard. In the case of the female, there's no trapping mechanism, but blood flows into this whole area, engorging it and making it swollen. Now, this area of the crura in the clitoris, this is behind the labia minora, the inner lips of the vagina. So this here would be the entrance to the vagina, the tip of the clitoris poking through, and the anus, the butthole, right here. So this area, the labia minora, are super sensitive. The urethra comes right out here. The pee comes right out here. But inside here, I think in part related to these crura, is the G-spot. So all of this anchors, this can be 12 to 15 centimeters in length internally, reach almost to the pubic bone. It's kind of positioned like this at an angle in your body. I think this is really helpful to anyone who wants to stimulate a woman's clitoris, whether it's herself or a partner, because when you understand what's there, you can understand what you're stimulating. As I said, especially that external part is super sensitive. So when you are stimulating a woman's clitoris, you don't go right there as soon as you start fooling around, okay? Like you don't kiss for a few seconds and then go right to the clitoris. You spend some time letting that area get engorged through stimulating her other erogenous zones, her neck, kissing her, kissing behind her ears or her inner thighs or her inner arms, or, depending on your level of intimacy, grazing by that area and coming back to it, right? And then once she's really getting aroused, then you can start to go by and visit the clitoris. And at first you want to just do a brush by. You want to go visit the clitoris, linger there for a minute, and then move on to the rest of, her labia minora or her inner thighs or her belly. And then eventually you start to focus on the clitoris. And I do have a video about how to perform oral sex on a woman, so I won't focus on that. But I would say it's the same thing with your hands or your genitals or a toy or anything else. Follow her lead. And in most cases, with guys, typically they have a form of a stroke or a stimulation. And if it feels really good, they don't want you to stop. Like, just stay doing what you're doing, right? With women in the clitoris, I find that most women want you to switch it up a little bit. So follow her lead. I'm not saying to be like, Barnum and Bailey 3-ring circus and be doing something different every minute and have a whole repertoire. I'm saying stay where you are with a certain stroke or move or whatever that she seems to be enjoying. And then maybe move away for a beat and come back and do a different angle, right? So there are different ways, and really be attuned to, because women will sort of pull away from you a little bit if the intensity of the arousal is too much, or if their clitoris is feeling too sensitive. Typically direct underneath the hood, as the clitoris will kind of get engorged and poke out from underneath the hood and will be exposed at a certain point in her arousal. And at that point, it's usually okay to directly stimulate the clitoris, once again, following her lead. But it might get too intense because, like I said, there's so many concentrated nerve endings there that it's very powerful. And sometimes the stimulation feels too intense for her. So you may need to pull back or stimulate through the skin, through the hood that's over the clitoris, or go down to the labia, which cover the crura of the clitoris. So play with it, no pun intended, explore it and understand it. Because if you, as a woman especially, don't understand your own clitoris, who else will?